About that.
Hi everybody, welcome to Baking with Andrea, and today we're going to make a blueberry coffee cake. Let's get started with our ingredients. I have over here 2 cups of flour, a tablespoon of baking powder, and a tablespoon of baking soda. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to combine those 3 in a bowl. And I'm going to give that a good stir, and this is going to sit on the side for a minute until we get to our next step. So the really nice thing about this recipe and what I love about it is that it's 10 steps. That's all it is, and it's, you know, simple, easy, stick it in the oven and good to go. After we've combined that, you're going to go ahead and turn on your oven to 350 degrees. Let it get heat up. Because as soon as we're done mixing it, we're going to put it in the oven. And you're also going to go ahead and grease and flour your pan. So this particular recipe calls for a 9x9 pan. I did not have a 9x9 pan, so I'm using an 8x12 pan. Whatever will work. It's just going to be a little bit flatter than higher, that's all. So I've already gone ahead and greased it with a cooking spray. You can use the paper from your butter. You can use a nonstick spray. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some flour to my pan. And the reason why we do this is just to make sure that it's not sticking. You're just going to get it all the way around. You want to make sure you get it on the sides. And I like to do this over the sink or the garbage can, just to make sure I'm not making a mess anywhere. I'm going to get rid of the excess in the pan. So that's what it's going to look like, nothing falling out of it. And then that's going to go on the side. So our third step is that we're going to take our butter, sugar, and eggs, and we're going to combine them in our mixer. You could do this in a stand mixer or with a hand mixer if you have one. So we're going to take half a stick of butter, half a cup of butter, which is 1 stick, I'm sorry. And it's at room temperature, and that's going to go into my bowl, along with 1 cup of white granulated sugar. And then along with that, I'm going to add 2 eggs. Now, some people are adventurous and crack their eggs right into the bowl. I like to crack mine into a separate bowl first, just to make sure I don't get any shells or anything else in there. So I'm going to do those one at a time. So there's 1. And there's 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start mixing. Start this off kind of slow, and then you're going to increase the speed as it goes, as it starts combining. I'm just going to let it mix together.
So if you're doing it by hand.
Yep, with a hand mixer.
Yeah, or by hand.
That's, yep, okay, go ahead.
How long do you, what are you looking for?
So if you do it completely by hand with a whisk, it's going to take a while. You want to make sure that your butter is really soft if you're going to do it by hand. And I'm actually going to show you, I'm just going to let it combine. Show you what it looks like midway. So you guys can see it as it's mixing. Can you see it there?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's not quite yet combined. I'm going to actually increase my speed here. It kind of gets incorporated together so you can't tell each ingredient apart anymore. I'm just going to let that go for a couple of minutes. You really want to make sure that butter and sugar is well incorporated. You want to do it until it's smooth. You don't want to have any lumps in there, any bumps in there. I'll put you down for just a second. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to scrape down the sides of my bowl, and also my whisk attachment has got some extra butter pieces. So I'm just going to scrape that down to make sure that while it's mixing, everything's getting well incorporated. And then I'm going to go ahead and mix it a little bit longer. Not quite ready yet. Does anybody have any questions up to this point? Almost there.
I have a question, a technical
Sure.
question. I'm just on a thumbnail sketch. I was copying the recipe and following it, and then I lost the big screen. How do I get back?
Caitlin, can you help with that?
Instead of gallery view,
Yep, try speaker view or.
you want to
I
switch.
just see show thumbnail.
You should say switch to active speaker, and that'll
Hold
just
on,
bring up Andrea.
Nancy, is it just a small box in the top corner or a small box in the corner?
Yes.
So if you look just above that, there should be three little sections, one with 1 square, one with 2 squares, and one with 3 squares.
Yes.
Hit the one with 3 squares. And that takes you back to your screen.
Yeah. Do I have to go back to Temple Emmanuel, log in?
Nope, you're still in it. You're there. Do you not see us?
I see you, yes, on a small thumbnail. I don't see a big screen,
Okay.
But that's fine.
So what you're going to do when you see that, it's going to say show grid, and then is it not giving you the full screen?
Right. I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm going to just.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you what we've got here. This is our little rice. And you can see that's creamed butter, sugar, and eggs. Well combined, not lumpy, smooth, and ready to move on to the next step. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to add that flour mixture that we combined at the beginning. And I would do this a little slowly. I don't dump the whole thing in. So we're going to add about half of it into our eggs and mix that. And then we'll add the second once it's combined. And again, you just want to make sure that everything on the side, before you add the second half, that everything on the side is scraped down and incorporated in. And so once it's incorporated like this, sorry, I don't want to make you guys dizzy today. So that's half of my flour incorporated. It's still a really wet, sticky dough. Once I'm half incorporated, I'm going to add the other half, but at the same time, I'm also going to go ahead and scrape down the sides of my bowl. I'm just going to give them a good scrape, get all that good stuff in there. And then go ahead and mix it back up. Get that all mixed in. At this point, while it's mixing, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my sour cream out of the fridge. You want that to be nice and cold. To be ready to use.
Now that's sour cream.
It is
Quite
sour
a container.
cream.
Quite a container.
My Costco version of sour cream. Okay. Once it's mixed, this is what it's going to look like. We are then going to get rid of our beating attachment. So we're going to take the bowl off the mixer. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to separate my dough from my beater attachment. Because this next step, we're going to mix in with a spatula or a spoon of some sort. Before we add it back on, but I want to make sure all of this good stuff is going to be mixed in. All right, that should be good. Keep this, don't put it in the sink yet. Keep it on the side because we're going to go back and add. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to take 1 teaspoon of vanilla, good vanilla extract. I'm going to add that in. And then I'm going to take 1 cup of sour cream. And this is what's going to make your coffee cake moist and delicious. And by the way, anybody know why it's called coffee cake, even though there's no coffee in it?
You have it with
Tell
coffee.
us.
There we go. Somebody said it. It's because traditionally it was made, I believe when I was doing my research for the recipe, the known recipe, make sure you scrape your cup out, by the way, you want all that good stuff. The first known recipe was found, I believe, in the 14th century, and it was known as a breakfast cuppa. Don't ask me why. And so as it's evolved over the years, it's coffee cake because you have it with a cup of coffee in the morning. So, all right, so I'm gonna mix in, I've got my vanilla and my sour cream, and I'm just gonna start mixing it in, gently folding it over until it's starting to incorporate, and then I'm gonna go back and add it, combine it all with the mixer. And the reason why I do it this way is if you do it, you can do it straight with the mixer. I find that it goes all over the place because the sour cream's pretty liquidy. So I just like getting it a little bit incorporated. Till about that. So not super mixed in, but just a little bit combined. And then I'm going to go ahead and add it back in here. Get all that good stuff off my spoon, my spatula. Has anybody else here tried to make coffee cake before? No, you're all coffee cake virgins?
No,
No,
there's
I
so many different recipes for coffee
There
cake,
are.
you know.
But that's what's nice about it is that each one's independent. You know, you can really make it to your taste.
Right.
My mom is different because she doesn't use confectioner's sugar. I was going to ask you about that for the filling.
I can't hear her either.
I'm
Say that
unmuted.
again.
I have made this recipe. My mom has a similar one, but I've never seen confectioner's sugar used in the filling.
Yep. So the reason why we use the confectioner's sugar is because we're putting half of the filling in the middle. It's going to stop it from sinking to the bottom. It just adds a little bit of sweetness to it. So while this is mixing, we're going to go ahead and we're going to combine our filling and our topping. So this is where you can have fun. I gave you two options in the recipe. The one was walnuts, cinnamon, and confectioner's sugar, and then the other one is blueberry, confectioner's sugar, and cinnamon, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. But the truth is you can really have fun with this. You can do whatever you want. It is really easy to try different versions. You could possibly try other fruits. It may make it a little bit watery, but go ahead and try it. So I have a cup of blueberries here that are washed and cleaned, half a cup of confectioner's sugar, which I'm going to dump in there, and about 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And I'm going to grab a spoon and just give this a quick off. And again, if you don't love cinnamon, take out or leave out the cinnamon, adjust it to your flavor palette. And so that's what your filling is going to look like. And the batter is well mixed and combined. I'll show you what it looks like. Really different from where we started. It's like a really soft batter. And at this point, we're going to take our pan that we've already floured and greased and put half of our batter in the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to put some of our filling in it. And then we're going to put the other half of the batter and put the rest of the filling on top. We're going to melt 2 tablespoons of butter, and then we're going to pour that on the top. I'm going to hold off on melting it because I don't want my butter to get cold on the counter. Go ahead and get all of that good stuff off the beater. Oh, the cinnamon smells so good, you guys. It smells delicious. I know what I'm having for tea break this morning. So this takes about 45 minutes to an hour to cook in the oven once it's done, to bake in the oven. And you want to let it sit for a good amount of time before you eat it because the inside's really, really hot, and it actually sets a little bit while it's sitting once it's cooling down. So once it's baked in the oven, you're going to check it at about 45 minutes. You're going to touch it, and you want it to actually bounce back at you. And that's how you're going to know that it's done. All right. So I've got my batter here. I'm going to take a couple of good spoonfuls, put them in the bottom. And you want about half on the bottom. And it's not a very wet batter, so you're going to have to kind of smooth it into your pan. Everyone who's doing it with me, how are you guys doing? Have any questions? A little bit more on the bottom here. And so since this has baking powder and baking soda in it, it will rise a bit in the oven. So you want to make sure that your pan isn't, you don't go too close to the top of your pan. All right, so I've got my, what are we doing here? I've got my half my batter in the bottom, and then I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle my filling.
What filling did you use, Andrea?
I'm using blueberries. It's a cup of blueberries, half a cup of confectioner's sugar, and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. But again, this is one of those recipes that you can be really creative with. I don't love baking recipes that are like, this is the only way that you can do it, and that's what we do. No, I like things that I can play around with and say, oh, I liked it this way, but I want to try it that way. So that's what I like about this one. All right, now I'm going to do this one in blobs because, again, it's not a super liquidy batter. So I'm going to kind of do it in different places where I can start to spread it out. And then you're going to cover your filling. Give it a nice topping. It's okay.
So did I miss something about the blueberries? Did you do anything to them?
I have a cup of blueberries combined with half a cup of confectioner's sugar and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. That's it. I just mixed them together.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
That's it.
All right. So if you were using, canned fruit, would you do something different?
Strain it. I would strain it really, really well. Because that extra liquid is going to add a lot of moisture to your cake.
Okay. Would you still add the confectioner's sugar? And
yeah.
Okay. Shows you my baking skills here.
That's okay. Terry, well, it depends. Are you using a pie filling? Or
I'm not. I'm using fresh, but I just figured I'd ask because sometimes people have that at home, and you know.
So if you're using a pie filling, if you're using a pie filling, it's definitely going to add some moisture, which is going to be hard to strain out. But if you're using you could probably even do this with like canned peaches or
how about frozen?
Any kind
frozen blueberries.
You could definitely use frozen. I would thaw them because that extra moisture and let them drain. Yeah. That moisture is going to add a lot of extra liquid to your coffee cake, which will change the texture of it.
Thanks.
So, but yes, you could absolutely use frozen. All right. So that's my second layer of my batter. And now I'm going to add the rest of my topping. Let me give it a good sprinkle. And what's nice is that the blueberries, once it's baking, kind of starts sinking into it and it all kind of melds together.
Looks yummy.
So, it is. So I actually did not make a test batch for you guys today because otherwise my family ends up having to eat it, and they've been shouting at me the last few weeks because we've made so many different things. But we're going to go through the last step here. So I'm going to take my butter and I'm going to melt it in my oven really quickly. So you want it to be really soft. And this is going to give it a, once it's baking in the oven, it's going to kind of come with the confectioner's sugar and give it a bit of a crumble on the top, which will be really nice. Now make space a little bit.
So it just gets poured on top. You don't have to like crumble it with your hands and
Nope,
stuff?
I'm just gonna
Okay.
pour it straight on top. Yep.
Yeah, because like I said, everyone is different.
Everyone's different. Something else that you could do on top of this is instead of melting your butter, you could combine it with 2 tablespoons of flour and a little bit more sugar and mix it with your fingers, kind of mix it all together and make an actual crumble and then sprinkle that on top. That'll give it a bit more texture on the top. So I have my melted butter, and it's not going to go over everything, but I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it all across top. And as you see, it didn't cover everything, but it did kind of give a good, good amount of coverage. And so what I'm going to do now is take a cookie sheet and put my pan on top of the cookie sheet, just in case it goes over. And then this is going to go in the oven. And it's
So it's going to rise?
Delicious. A little bit. So the baking soda and the baking powder will force it to rise just a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So.
Okay.
All right, Caitlin, you ready? Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank
Please feel free
you.
to email us with any questions.